You ever wake up on a lazy Sunday, coffee still hot in your hand, only to find a neon pink yoga mat drifting across your fishing pond while three wild hogs go to town on what used to be your best folding chair? Yeah, me neither, until that morning. I mean, who expects to step outside and find your private land turned into some stranger's Instagram wellness retreat? It was like the universe had played a practical joke, only I was the punchline. Before I could even process it, there she was, blonde hair pulled back with a leopard print scrunchie, standing tall on top of Grandpa's old deer stand, balancing in some kind of yoga warrior pose like she owned the place. Right next to her, jammed awkwardly between two oaks and Grandpa's ancient salt lick, sat a souped-up Jeep Wrangler with a vanity plate so obnoxious I had to blink just to make sure I wasn't still dreaming. But nope, this was real. Somebody had seriously set up camp on our property. No note, no heads up. Just straight-up trespassed with full influencer energy. Biscuit, my dog, found her first. He'd been nose-deep in a tipped-over cooler, tail wagging like it was Christmas, and by the time I caught up, the woman had started live streaming, all bright-eyed and blissful, completely clueless she was about to meet the southern definition of private property. I crouched down behind the thicket, just far enough to watch without being seen, and Biscuit, bless him, crept right alongside. His ears perked up like he knew a story was about to unfold. Her camp looked like a yard sale after a tornado, plastic bins overflowing with trail mix, energy drinks everywhere, incense sticks stuck in the ground like weird little flags, and a Bluetooth speaker blasting forest meditation tracks. She wore these leggings and a shirt that said Earthchild, plus one of those giant influencer hats flopped back on her head, every few minutes angling her phone for a new, deep monologue about escaping society. 2 steps left or right, and she'd have seen the big yellow sign, private property. Trespassers will be fed to the hogs. But I guess when you're chasing your inner goddess, little details like posted warnings don't register. I jogged back up the trail and found Grandpa in the shed, sharpening his hunting blade with this old whetstone he reserves for serious business. I tried to joke about the hippie yoga lady who'd taken a wrong turn, but Grandpa just looked up, eyes like steel, muttered, "So, it starts again," and went right back to sharpening. That's when I remembered the story about 97 and the RV full of birdwatchers who tried to claim our field for a national park picnic. Grandpa's never been much for uninvited guests. Next thing I know, Grandpa's marching out to the old hog pen, swinging a heavy chain over his shoulder like some kind of medieval sheriff. He tosses a few apples into the pen and says, "Time for 'em to earn their keep." The remaining 3 pigs, Buster, Rufus, and mean old Clementine, start rooting and snorting, ready for action. I realized real quick there wasn't going to be a calm conversation. This was Grandpa's land, and he was about to remind somebody in the most unforgettable way. We looped around the ridge, staying low, just in time to watch the boars sniffing their way into her wellness retreat. That's when I learned her name was Karen. She made sure the whole world knew, narrating her juice cleanse and deep detox for her followers. But she didn't seem to notice the 3 hogs sniffing her Jeep or Rufus toppling her cooler. It wasn't until Clementine chewed up her sage smudge stick that Karen shrieked and dove headfirst into her tent, phone clutched to her chest like it was a lifeline. From the hill, Grandpa just shook his head, muttering, "Let her call whoever she wants. That gate's shut." And with that, he pulled out his welding kit and, with sparks flying, sealed the only road off the property tight as a drum. If she wants wilderness, she can have it, raw and unfiltered. By nightfall, the forest was alive with wild squeals and the thud of a Yeti cooler being dragged across gravel, Karen's fairy lights flickering while the hogs poked through her life coach inventory. She tried to fight them off at one point, waving a stick, like she was casting a spell, but all that got her was a face-to-face standoff with Clementine, who, let's be honest, looked way more spiritually centered than Karen ever would. From the porch, Grandpa sipped his tea and muttered, "City people always want to escape into nature, until nature starts eating their yoga blocks." We both sat there, letting the sounds of chaos settle, and for the first time in ages, I saw Grandpa grin. By morning, the camp looked like the aftermath of a wild animal convention. Yoga mat chewed up, cooler in the creek, fancy lanterns glowing in the underbrush like misplaced Easter eggs. Karen stumbled out of her tent, hair wild, socks mismatched, and started frantically waving her phone around for a signal. Every few minutes she'd shout, "This is illegal. I'll sue whoever owns this dump," which had Grandpa laughing so hard he almost dropped his breakfast. While Karen spiraled, Grandpa started adding layers to the gate, a twist of barbed wire here, a knot only he could untangle there, turning our entrance into something out of an Appalachian fortress. Finally, Karen found enough signal to call the sheriff, and wouldn't you know it, old Melvin Wyatt himself rolled up, Grandpa's poker buddy, not about to arrest anybody, but also not impressed with her influencer drama. Karen put on a whole show about being held hostage by feral swine, but the sheriff just tipped his hat, said, "Ma'am, looks like you're on posted land," and drove off, leaving her in a puddle of mosquito bites and confusion. You'd think that'd be enough, right? Nope. By afternoon, Karen had spun her story into a new live stream, telling her followers she was being held hostage. Instead of support, though, she got memed. Someone edited her face onto a pig. Another did a horror movie voiceover. By sundown, she was trending as Boar Karen. She tried to regain control, lit candles, played flute music, even made a circle of flower petals, but the hogs just rolled their eyes, or would have, if pigs could, and kept raiding her snacks. The tent was half collapsed, the Jeep pinned by a snoozing boar, and Karen was desperate. Grandpa, meanwhile, started hiding trail cams around her camp. The photos that came back were pure comedy. Karen chasing Rufus with a broom, Clementine chewing on herbal supplements, and Gary the boar turning her yoga block into a chew toy. We popped popcorn and watched it all play out like the world's weirdest reality show. By the third morning, Karen was a wreck, slipping off her Jeep while searching for signal, yelling at the sky, totally missing the lesson. Then her live stream, one of the many, went viral. Suddenly she leaned into it, streaming every moment, chasing fame instead of rescue, calling it raw survival. She bragged about finding herself, but Grandpa and I knew better. The land peels folks back to who they really are, he said. And sometimes that ain't pretty. Her camp turned into a disaster zone. Torn tapestries, muddy Jeep, food containers mangled and scattered, Karen herself looking like a scarecrow in designer sunglasses, clutching a half-eaten protein bar. But then, something changed. One morning she tried to leave a peace offering, a potted succulent, by the woods, then went live about embracing chaos. Crying the kind of tears that come when you finally know you're in too deep. Right on cue, the silence broke, a metallic clang from the woods. Karen, scared stiff, went to investigate, only to find Grandpa's old hog trap, now baited and triggered, with Clementine snoring inside. Karen lost it, yelling at Grandpa about animal rights, threatening lawsuits, and Oprah. Grandpa just shrugged. You find a lawyer with a helicopter, 'cause that's the only way out unless you fix that gate you tried to saw through last night. She hadn't realized we'd seen her late night escape attempt, but the scratch marks and abandoned hacksaw were all the proof we needed. The next day, she went quiet, packed up slowly, washed her Jeep with herbal tonic, tried to scrub away the mess. When she finally tried to escape, she ditched the gate altogether, took off through the marsh, only to crash into the old bog by the east fence, Jeep stuck axle deep, horn blaring into the night. From the porch, Grandpa just sighed. She's gonna learn the hard way. Karen screamed for help, but it wasn't real panic, just the frustration of someone who finally realized they weren't the hero of their own story. By sunrise, she looked like a cryptid sighting gone wrong, mud-streaked, hair wild, cussing out her Jeep, screaming at the trail cams. When I brought her water and a sandwich, she took them without a word, then finally said, "Your grandpa planned this, didn't he?" I shrugged. Not all of it. The hogs just live here. They don't take orders. She let out a tired laugh, the first real one I'd heard from her, and admitted, "They've done more damage to my brand than any troll online ever could." That night, she slept by the fire, no phone, no audience. Just Karen and the cold realization that maybe nature didn't care about her followers. By morning, she showed up at the gate. No saw, no threats, just a soft, "I want to leave." Grandpa said, "Gate's still locked. You've got a mess to clean first." She nodded. No argument. and set to work tidying up, the boars trailing her like lazy supervisors. That night, she joined us for venison. Steaks, asked, is this boar? Grandpa nearly choked laughing. Nah, dear. Though Clementine might take offense. The next day at dawn, Karen walked down the trail, not dragging bags or crying. Just steady, carrying a backpack and a stick. Grandpa met her at the gate and asked, what did you learn? She looked him dead in the eye. That it wasn't your land that was the problem. It was me. The hogs weren't chasing me. I was running from myself. Grandpa nodded, opened the gate, and let her go. No jeep, no drama, just Karen with her busted bag and something new in her eyes. We watched her disappear around the bend, and Grandpa said, reckon she'll be all right. Land doesn't change people. It just shows them who they are. Weeks went by. One day, a package came in the mail, no return address, just a leather-bound notebook and a USB drive. Inside, Karen had written it all down. Journal entries, sketches of the hogs, her rawest moments. One page just said, I can't believe I tried to live stream a nervous breakdown. On the USB, a final video. No filters, no audience, just her by the fire saying, sometimes the wildest thing you can do is be quiet long. Enough to hear yourself think, and maybe let a hog sit next to you while you do. We never shared the story, never sent it to the press. It felt right to keep it here, tucked away with old hunting journals and family photo albums. Months later, a letter came from Karen. She was working at a wildlife sanctuary, no cell service, rebuilding habitats, finally at peace. She signed off. Tell Clementine I miss her, and she's still more emotionally stable than half my followers ever were. Grandpa laughed, slipped the letter into the notebook, and went outside, saying to the hills, world's a little better now, one wild hog at a time. Funny how a trespasser can leave behind a legend. How a place can break you down and build you back up, whether you want it to or not. So, what do you think? Is the wild meant to be tamed for likes and followers? Or does it exist to tame us, showing us what we're really running from? Drop your thoughts down below. Let's talk about what it means to find justice, or even just a little peace, when the world gets too loud. And if you've ever met your own wild hog, literal or not, I want to hear your story.